The call came late in the evening while I was washing dishes, the kind of quiet moment when the world feels harmless. When I answered, the voice on the other end said my childhood nickname, a name only my mother used when she tucked me in at night. Hearing it after so many years felt like someone had reached into a sealed part of my memory and ripped it open. Before I could ask who it was, the voice continued describing things nobody else could possibly know, the exact scar on my right knee from when I fell off the backyard swing at age 5. The smell of my mother's cinnamon tea, the song she hummed to me when I had nightmares. His tone was calm, almost gentle, but it made my entire body stiffen with fear. When I demanded to know who he was, there was a long silence, and then the line clicked dead. Seconds later, a text appeared on my phone. "I've always been watching you." My heart hammered in my chest as 1,000 thoughts rushed through my mind. Was this a prank? A stalker? Someone from my past? But that didn't make sense. Those memories were from decades ago, things even I barely remembered until he said them. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every creak of the house, every passing car, every flicker of light felt like a warning. The next morning, as I sat with a mug of coffee I couldn't bring myself to drink, the phone rang again. The same unknown number. When I answered, the voice didn't greet me this time. He simply said, "You forgot me." But I never forgot you. Those words settled deep inside me, heavier than anything I had ever felt. In that moment, everything ordinary about my life fell apart. I realized I wasn't dealing with a random stranger. I was dealing with someone who claimed to know the deepest layers of my past, someone who had somehow been close to me without ever being seen. And the more he talked, the more I felt my childhood, something I thought I understood, slip through my fingers. That was the moment I knew I had no choice but to uncover the truth, no matter how dark or painful it might be. Because if a stranger knows the memories I've forgotten, then what else has he seen? And why did he wait until now to come back? I stared at my phone for a long moment, the unknown number still glowing on the screen. My hands trembled as I swiped to answer. Before I could speak, the quiet, controlled voice returned. "I'm glad you picked up this time," he said softly, as if we were old friends reconnecting after years apart. My mouth went dry. "Who are you?" I asked, trying to sound firm, but hearing the shake in my own voice. There was a faint breath on the line, then the stranger said, "Do you remember the treehouse behind your childhood home? The one with the loose wooden step you were too scared to climb?" My heart almost stopped. I hadn't thought about that treehouse in more than 20 years. It was torn down before I turned 10. I swallowed hard and forced myself to listen as he described the carvings on the wooden beams, the ones I etched with a broken nail, drawing crooked stars and writing my mother's initials. He even knew about the little blue marble I hid in a crack between the boards, a marble I lost and cried about all night. I could feel my breath shortening. "How do you know these things?" I whispered. "Were you watching me? Were you there?" The voice chuckled quietly, not in a mocking way, but in a nostalgic one. "I was always there," he said. "Even when you didn't see me." A cold chill ran down my arms. I stood up, pacing the living room, searching for some rational explanation. Maybe it was someone from the neighborhood, someone who used to play with me. But no, my parents never allowed strangers near the backyard, and I didn't have many friends. "You're lying," I said. Though I wasn't sure I believed myself. "Nobody knew about that." "You did," he replied. "And I did." Then the line went silent for a moment before he added, "You were never alone in that treehouse. You just don't remember." My breath caught. The voice lingered in the air like a shadow I couldn't escape. Then he hung up. I stood frozen in my living room, the house suddenly too quiet. The world felt different now, smaller, darker, as if someone had pulled back a curtain on a part of my childhood I never wanted to revisit. And somewhere in that silence, I realized the terrifying truth. This wasn't just a stranger. Someone from my childhood was reaching out. Someone I had forgotten, but who had never forgotten me. I didn't want to involve anyone, but the fear kept growing inside me like a pressure I couldn't ignore. That night, I sat at my dining table with old photo albums spread out, searching for anything that connected to the voice. I flipped through pages filled with faded faces, birthdays, family trips, but none of it felt familiar. Not truly. It was like looking at someone else's life. The stranger's words circled in my mind. You were never alone in that treehouse. What did he mean? Why didn't I remember? My mother passed away years ago, and my father barely spoke about the past. Still, I decided to call him. When he answered, his voice sounded tired, older than I remembered. I tried to sound casual, but he picked up the tension instantly. "What's wrong?" he asked. I hesitated. "Dad, when I was a kid, did I ever have a friend? Someone who used to play with me in the backyard." There was a long silence, too long. I heard him breathe in sharply. "Why are you asking that?" he said, his tone shifting. "No reason," I lied. "Just remembering things. You shouldn't dig into the past," he said firmly. "Some things are better left alone." His reaction only made my fear deepen. After hanging up, I shut off the lights, leaving only the hallway lamp on. I needed air. I stepped outside onto the porch, hoping the night breeze would calm me. But then I froze. Across the street, a figure stood under the street lamp. Motionless. Facing my house. I squinted, trying to make out their face, but the shadows swallowed their features. The figure didn't move. Didn't flinch. Just watched. I took a step back, heart racing. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A text message. I pulled it out with shaking fingers. "Do you remember me yet?" I looked up again, but the figure was gone. I stumbled into the house and locked the door, sliding down to the floor as fear wrapped around me like a cold blanket. Was the stranger really someone from my childhood, someone I had forgotten? Or something worse, someone my family tried to make me forget? Sleep never came. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, my mind spinning with fragments of memories that didn't make sense. Finally, around dawn, exhaustion dragged me into a restless sleep, and that's when it happened. I had a dream. Or maybe a memory. I was standing in the backyard as a child, maybe 6 or 7. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the grass. I turned toward the treehouse, and something stood inside it. A small figure, a boy. I couldn't see his face, just the outline of him. He raised his hand and waved. I woke up gasping. Drenched in sweat, my chest tight, my mind spinning, for the first time. I remembered the tree house with someone else in it, someone who didn't belong there. I went to the attic and searched through boxes until I found what I was looking for: old home videos. My hands shook as I pushed a tape into the dusty camcorder. The footage flickered on. Me. Running in the backyard. Laughing, my mother filming. "Look at you," she giggled from behind the camera. Then the camera panned slightly, and something was there at the edge of the frame, a shadow, a small figure behind a tree. My breath caught. I rewound, watched again, the same shadow, unmoving. Watching me, it couldn't be a coincidence. I fast-forwarded through multiple tapes. Each time I played a backyard video, the same shadowy figure appeared somewhere in the background, never moving, never clear. Someone had been there, someone my parents never mentioned. Someone I didn't remember. I felt my heartbeat ringing in my ears. I rushed downstairs, grabbed my phone, and texted the stranger's number. "Who are you?" The reply came instantly, as if he had been waiting. You're starting to remember. That's good. I blinked, a chill running down my spine before I could type again. Another message came. We used to play together. You trusted me until the day everything changed. My fingers shook. What changed? I asked, a long pause. Then, you forgot me. Because they made you forget. I stared at the screen. Who were they? And what did they hide from me? Something inside me snapped. I grabbed my car keys and drove straight to my father's house. He opened the door with a tired look in his eyes, but when he saw my expression, his face tightened. We need to talk, I said, pushing past him into the living room. He sighed heavily and sat down, rubbing his temples. I knew this day would come, he muttered. I froze. What day? When your memories started coming back, my mouth went dry. Dad, who was he? The boy in the backyard, his eyes widened, fear flickering through them. You weren't supposed to remember. I leaned forward. Tell me. He clasped his hands together, staring at the floor. His name was Noah. Hearing the name sent a shiver through me. You and Noah were close, he continued. Too close. You believed he was real, but he wasn't. I blinked. What do you mean he wasn't real? Dad swallowed hard. You created him, an imaginary friend. You were lonely and your mind built someone to keep you company. You talked to him, played with him, even blamed him when things went wrong. My head spun. That couldn't be true. Noah felt too real. Dad continued. Then one day, something happened, something bad. You claimed Noah pushed you from the treehouse. You broke your arm. You cried for days, begging us to keep him away. You said he was angry. He wanted to hurt you. My heart pounded. So we took you to a child therapist. They helped you separate imagination from reality. Slowly, you forgot Noah. Completely, I shook my head, tears blurring my vision. Dad, Noah wasn't imaginary. He looked at me with pity. You're confused. No, I whispered. He's been calling me. Dad's face went pale. That's impossible. I pulled out my phone and showed him the messages. His hands shook as he read them. This isn't real. Someone is messing with you. I stared at him. But how do they know all my memories? He didn't answer. Instead, he turned away, his voice barely a whisper. I thought he was gone. My heart stopped. What do you mean gone? Dad looked at me with terror in his eyes. Because Noah wasn't imaginary, not completely. My father's confession left me breathless. What does that even mean? I asked, my voice cracking. Dad's hands trembled. Noah was real, but not in the way you think. He was different. The room felt colder. Different how? Dad exhaled shakily. Noah lived next door for a short time. His parents were strange, isolated, secretive. You two became inseparable almost instantly, like you'd known each other forever. But something about him was wrong. Some days he acted older than a child. Other days he seemed hollow. Watching you without blinking. Your mother didn't trust him. I tried to swallow. But my throat was dry. What happened to him? He disappeared, Dad whispered. Right after you fell from the treehouse, his parents packed up overnight and left. No forwarding address, no goodbye. They vanished like they never existed. A cold shock ran through me before I could respond. My phone vibrated. Another message. I'm outside. My blood ran cold. I rushed to the window and pulled back the curtain. Under the street lamp stood a man tall, motionless. Not a child. A grown man. But something about the way he stood, the stillness, the dark, unblinking gaze, it was him. Noah, I whispered. My father stepped back, fear etched on his face. Don't go out there, but I had to. I stepped outside, my legs shaking. As I got closer, the man tilted his head slightly, just like the boy in my memories. "You remember me now," he said softly. His voice was the same voice from the calls, calm, unnerving, familiar. "Why now?" I asked. He smiled faintly. "Because they made you forget. They erased me from your life." But I never left. I backed up a step. "What do you want?" His eyes darkened. "You promised you'd never leave me alone in that treehouse, but you broke that promise." My breath caught. I remembered, a promise whispered in the dark, a hand holding mine. A fearful child begging me never to go. "I didn't know," I whispered. He stepped closer. "You will remember everything soon, and then you'll understand why I came back." Before I could speak, he leaned in and whispered something that chilled my soul. "I wasn't imaginary. I wasn't your friend. I was your shadow." And then he disappeared into the darkness. Without footsteps, without sound, like he had never been there at all, the train roared past, its lights flashing across the empty platform, but for the first time. The narrator didn't feel afraid. Instead, there was a strange calmness in his chest, a feeling he hadn't known in years. He turned toward the stranger, who somehow knew every corner of his forgotten childhood, and whispered "Aki, thank you." His voice trembled, not from fear, but from the weight of everything he had learned tonight. The man smiled, a soft, almost sorrowful smile, like someone who had carried a secret for far too long. "I didn't save your life tonight," he said quietly. "I just wanted you to live it, freely." There was no demand in his tone, no expectation, only a gentle truth, spoken by someone who had watched from the shadows, protecting without ever asking to be seen. Then he stepped closer, his expression turning unusually serious. "I won't ask you for anything," he said. "Just one promise. Don't forget me again." The words hit the narrator like a cold wind. Again, that single word carried the weight of years he couldn't remember. Years the man had never spoken of, years that were locked away deep inside his mind. But now, finally, they made sense. He nodded slowly, the promise forming in his heart before it reached his lips. "I won't," he said, and the moment he blinked, the man was already turning away. No dramatic farewell, no final look, just a silent retreat into the night. His figure faded into the dim glow of the street lamps, dissolving like a shadow that had completed its purpose and didn't need to exist anymore. The narrator stood alone on the platform, the cold metal beneath his feet, the last echo of the train fading into the distance, but he didn't feel alone, not anymore. The truth was no longer frightening, it was freeing. The memories he had buried, the ones that shaped who he was, had finally found their way back to him. As he watched the darkness swallow the man's silhouette, he realized something profound. Sometimes the people who protect us the most never stand in the spotlight. They stay hidden, silent, waiting for the moment we truly need them. And sometimes a forgotten memory doesn't just return, it rewrites everything we thought we knew about our own lives. Tonight didn't end a story, it awakened one.